If you ever thought White House press briefings were just a bunch of reporters nodding along and scribbling notes, this recent debate has totally turned against that idea. NBC's Peter Alexander decided to go toe-to-toe with Trump's press secretary Caroline Leavitt over the administration's big, bold, and totally controversial mass deportation plan. And let me tell you, it was not some polite little Q&A session.
He said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
This one turned into a full-blown WWE SmackDown, minus the folding chairs. This was heated. And why does this matter? Well, aside from the fact that watching political figures verbally suplex each other is always entertaining, this debate is about the kind of stuff that has everyone on social media losing their minds. You know, immigration, human rights, national security.
Trill, I've been with him at the rallies. I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals.
And let's be real, at this point, it's less about actual policies and more about which side can come up with the sassiest comeback. Welcome to modern politics, folks. Trump's administration is going full throttle on this whole mass deportation thing, and let's just say it's not exactly a quiet rollout. We're talking military bases being prepped as detention centers, ICE officials getting reassigned for not moving fast enough, and a whole lot of political yelling from both sides. First off, they're eyeing places like Fort Bliss to house detainees. Yep, actual military bases, because nothing screams welcoming immigration policy like turning military installations into holding facilities. And if you thought ICE was already aggressive, well, I think you need to think again after this, because the administration is making it crystal clear that if deportation numbers don't go up, heads will roll. Just ask Caleb Vitello, who went from acting ICE director to acting unemployed real quick. But of course, not everyone's on board with this whole crackdown. Human rights groups and Democrats are basically clutching their pearls, calling it inhumane and extreme. Meanwhile, Trump supporters are out here saying, it's called enforcing the law, guys. So yeah, it's a mess, but a very loud, very political, very Twitter-worthy mess.
Thanks for interrupting. So to be clear, violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president...
Now you must be thinking how this debate must have rolled. Don't worry, I've watched it plenty of time, over and over, so I could state the beef. There has been an absolute firestorm between NBC's Peter Alexander and Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. You ever watched a debate so tense you could practically hear the producers in the background whispering, keep rolling, this is gold? Yeah, this was one of those moments. Alexander wasn't exactly in the mood for pleasantries. He dove straight into the deep end, grilling Leavitt on the ethics of mass deportations, as if he were the designated voice of reason in a room full of chaos. He questioned whether the administration had actually thought through the logistics of using military bases as detention centers. You know, just casually repurposing places meant for training soldiers into makeshift holding cells for thousands of people. No big deal. Nothing dystopian about that at all. He brought up the whole potential human rights disaster angle, because what's a government crackdown without some international outrage? The guy was practically painting a picture of a dystopian sci-fi movie, except this one wasn't set in the future. Leavitt, on the other hand, had zero interest in playing along with that narrative. She pushed back hard, with a smile on her face, insisting that this was all about following the law and prioritizing national security, not some heartless crusade to terrorize families, because according to her, the moment someone crosses the border illegally, they're already criminal, so technically, mass deportations are just the government enforcing the rules.
Affected.
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify. What I can tell you is that
real simple, real black and white, no room for emotional appeals or heart-wrenching news stories of families being separated, just an unfiltered, this is how the law works. But Alexander was making his point clear enough, so he went again. He brought up the fact that almost half of the recent arrests involve people with no criminal records other than illegal entry, which, to be fair, does kind of poke a hole in the whole we're just going after the bad guys argument. And that makes me think not everyone who crosses the border has an intention of turning their country upside down single-handedly. Some have financial issues, some family, some life issues. Living in their own country does not provide them the basic rights of humans, so they need to be given a chance at life. No? Just because they were born in the wrong country does not make them a criminal. They could have introduced another law and used the army to enforce that, one that engaged less violence. worse. So Leavitt made another point about that. She doubled down, arguing that two things can be true at the same time. Yes, violent criminals are a priority, but that doesn't mean everyone else gets to stay. Which, if you think about it, is the political equivalent of telling a kid, no, we can't get rid of homework just because pop quizzes are worse.
What particular actions are you referring to that would...
referring to LHEAP right now. That's the low-income heating program, for example. We can talk about, there's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically.
Then came the fireworks. You know that moment in an argument where both people realize they're just talking at each other and neither one is going to back down? That's exactly what happened here. The interruptions started flying, Alexander pushing for specifics, Leavitt swatting down his questions like a politician who's been media trained within an inch of her life. At one point, Alexander tried to pin her down on whether these policies were actually practical, which led to a beautiful moment where Leavitt basically dismissed his question as hypothetical nonsense, which simply translates to, I'm not answering that and you can't make me. By the end of it, you could tell neither one was walking away feeling like they'd lost. Alexander got enough fuel for the next day's headlines, and Leavitt got her moment to prove she wasn't about to get steamrolled by the media. But let's be real, at this point, this whole issue isn't about who's right. It's just another episode of America's favorite show, political theater. So grab some popcorn because this saga isn't ending anytime soon. You already know social media had a field day with this one. The second that press briefing ended, X, turned into an all-you-can-eat buffet of hot takes. If you had the misfortune of opening the app, you were immediately smacked in the face with conservatives declaring that Caroline Leavitt absolutely annihilated Peter Alexander, while liberals were foaming at the mouth, insisting she did nothing but talk in circles and dodge every real question, which was pretty classic. And then the political figures jumped in because obviously no major debate is complete until every politician and their grandmother decides to weigh in. Trump supporters were practically throwing confetti in the air, cheering Leavitt on for standing her ground and not letting the big bad mainstream media twist the narrative. If you ask them, she was the press secretary equivalent of a WWE champion, taking down the biased press, one snappy comeback at a time. On the other side, Democratic leaders wasted zero time ripping into the administration's immigration policies, acting like this press briefing was just another episode in the ongoing saga of government cruelty. Then there's the mainstream media, which split down the middle like it always does. The right-leaning outlets were all about hyping up Leavitt's dominance in the briefing, making sure everyone knew she shut down Alexander's so-called gotcha questions. Fox News probably had an entire segment dedicated to breaking down exactly how she held her ground, complete with dramatic slow max media clips and patriotic background music. Meanwhile, the left-leaning networks, well, they were proud of our Alexander boy. CNN likely had a panel dissecting how he exposed the administration's hypocrisy, while MSNBC was probably analyzing Leavitt's facial expressions like they were decoding an ancient scroll. The real MVP at the end of the day, was anything actually accomplished? Absolutely not. But did everyone walk away feeling more validated in their existing beliefs? You bet. And really, isn't that what politics is all about these days? So what happens now? Well, if history has taught us anything, it's that this whole mess isn't going away anytime soon. The Trump administration isn't exactly known for backing off because of some angry tweets. So expect the deportation push to keep rolling. The immigration debate is just getting more chaotic, not less.